culture conversation that we had in the previous ad hoc.
Okay, so
And I sent that as a PowerPoint to Micah, if that's something that you want to review and discuss and add to or subtract or change or whatever. I did not connect with Deacon Lyles or Walter Riley. I figured they would be on the line and that discussion would happen here or not, but just know that that's been submitted.
Okay, so let's open the meeting because we haven't started, right, Micah?
I just started it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And welcome everyone to the Negotiated Settlement Agreement or NSA Ad Hoc Committee meeting. It is June 5th, 2024.
June 4th.
It's Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, and we have members of our community as well as commissioners on this ad hoc. And anyone who wants to join can do so with their notes in the chat, which we will be monitoring. In reviewing our notes from our last committee meeting, which was May 28th, 2024, we had some action items. We were to contact Ryan Richardson. We were to revisit and update the work on culture change and training issues in partnership with members of the committee. We were going to work on a definition of sustainability, and we were going to contact the mayor on behalf of the ad hoc to push for the required meetings. So insofar as the action items are concerned, I would say that I did contact Ryan Richardson, in the office of the city attorney, as well as his other group, Bridget Martin, Veronica Harris, Marguerite Malloy, who operate in this space in the OCA office. And I did get a response, and the response was not encouraging insofar as cultivating collaboration in accordance with Judge Oreck's order to meet and confer to discuss the questions that he raised in his CMC directive. I will be following up to that response that I received actually from Bridget Martin, who is the attorney in the office of the city attorney's office, with possibly a meeting, but certainly a written response challenging the position that was taken in her email, to wit that basically OCA writes the statement, and while we have an opportunity as the Oakland Police Commission to provide an addendum, that will have to be apparently at the consideration of OCA, and no meeting was confirmed or even intimated along the lines that the judge requested. So that's my item. Pastor Jackie was going to revisit and update the work on culture change, and I understand she has provided us with a PowerPoint. Always on point, Pastor Jackie. And then Mariano Contreras offered to draft a definition of sustainability. And Walter Riley, who's a member of the community, contacted the mayor on behalf of the ad hoc to push for the required meeting in accordance with the judge's directive. And the mayor's response was that her people will take those actions in the future. We have to follow up with her office. So Pastor Jackie, would you like to go through your PowerPoint on culture update?
Sure. I know that one of our members has a hard stop at 6 o'clock, so I don't know if you wanted to hear from him first, if that required discussion, as this may be lengthy once we engage it. So I'll defer to whatever your direction is as chair.
Well, I would then, if your presentation, as I should have known, would be thorough and perhaps lengthy. I will defer, but I know it's
Not
thorough.
super lengthy, but just may. That's all.
And so please, Mariano, do you have something to offer insofar as a definition of sustainability?
Yes, I do. And if you would indulge me, I have it's about a 3.5, 4 minute presentation,
Sure.
and then we can discuss it. So NSA sustainable compliance. The first and important fact that we must recognize is that the negotiated settlement agreement came about because of a lawsuit, Delphine Allen versus the city of Oakland in 2003. It wasn't because the department recognized a deficiency in their practices or an elected official came forth and demanded better practices from OPD. It was simply a lawsuit brought by two attorneys representing 119 plaintiffs who alleged that crimes were committed by the Oakland Police Department. The lawsuit exposed many decades of a toxic culture of planting evidence, beating arrestees, cover-ups, and lying. This culture, along with the unwritten blue wall of silence, is what the NSA is attempting to dismantle. The following is from the first independent monitoring team report of December 2003. Quote, "The reforms required by the NSA are neither extraordinary or unusual. One of the most common refrains heard from commanders, union, and city officials is that many provisions of the NSA merely require OPD to do what it should have been doing all along. They simply reflect professional policing standards." End of quote. The NSA existed 14 years prior to Measure OW that seated a strong and independent civilian police oversight body. That's our police commission. Before that, the only recognized stakeholders for achieving compliance included the police department, the city manager, the mayor, city council, city attorney's office, and the Oakland Police Officers Association. The police commission was only invited to participate in the case management conference in 2023 because Commissioner Regina Jackson asked to be included. NSA compliance is overseen by a federal court judge. Compliance with each of the tasks is determined by the independent monitor and the independent monitoring team. The team writes and presents a report to the judge who determines the next steps. To date, there have been about 81 independent monitoring team reports and at least 7 sustainability period reports since October of 2022, when it was believed that compliance was near. The IMT can check off an NSA task because of what they observed at a monthly monitoring visit and agreeing that the requirement for task completion was met. But misconduct, cover-ups, and untruthfulness take place where they cannot be witnessed. How will compliance be sustained? In the 21 years of the NSA's existence and a few mandated tasks yet to be completed, there has not been a defined compliance metric or systemic measurement to assure sustainability. Compliance means practicing the task every single day. Merely checking a box and establishing a calendar period does not establish compliance. It is not so much having a calendar period, but what provisions should be implemented. A passive sustainability period will not enforce compliance. A sustainability period should include an internal proactive program that is not simply counting the days. The CMC stakeholders should insist on the following. 1, informational and educational campaign on the NSA and its history at all department levels, including academies. Every OPD employee, sworn or not, should know about the NSA. Education and awareness can promote accountability. You have skin in the game, you're accountable. 2, review all public complaints, sustained or not, to prevent any patterns and brewing scandals. Let's not just wait for these scandals to show up. Let's look into them. Let's see what's brewing. 3, measure accountability by reviewing administered discipline cases and their effectiveness. 4, the sustainability calendar period should ensure that the Office of Inspector General is wholly supported and on firm ground to take over the NSA responsibilities. 5, a 12-month sustainability period can be recommended with a robust quarterly CMC evaluations to include all stakeholders. And I threw this one in for good measure. 4, request a restructuring of monitor fees during the sustainability period. So I humbly submit this to the body. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the other members of this ad hoc?
I really like that phrase about that the NSA should be looked at and conformed with every single day, and there be, you know, an internal and proactive body that does that, that focus that. That's exactly what should be happening on an ongoing basis. Should have happened a long time ago, but certainly now.
I appreciate your work. Yeah, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, I like the part where you said that every employee ought to know about the history of Oakland Police Department. And secondly, that this whole NSA situation we're in now came about from lawsuits, from civil lawsuits. But, you know, that was the second step. The first step was criminal acts. You know, you don't get the lawsuit until the action is done. And we know about those actions. Why? Because it all went to court, and they, some of them were brought out in court, and some of them were brought out in the book.
The writers.
The writers. Yeah. It came out, and no one has refuted that. No one has said, none of this is true. I'm suing you for defamation. No one has said that. So we have a history of overt acts that are, you know, criminal, and we've been looking the other way and all of that. So we need to stop doing that. It's going to take a while to change the culture, but we need to start now.
Yeah.
Brother Mariano, awesome as usual. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Was there a metric attached to, in your opening, you talked about a metric associated with sustainability as opposed to just checking boxes? What was that piece again?
I did not. I mentioned that it has been in existence without that metric or compliance definition.
So in this case, what you set forward, sustainability would be implementing these 5 recommendations.
Yes, and I purposely left out, you know, definition, compliance metric, or systemic measurement, because, you know, we needed to, we as this group needs to, you know, meet that out, you know, fill it up, you know, and I know that Brother Reginald, you know, has some recommendations for that, but I just wanted this body to have the opportunity to, you know, to have the input and fill that out.
I'm jumping in here, and I missed several of the other meetings because of the existing commitments. But Mariano, good to see you and good to hear this set. What I'm hearing from you is the history, a purpose, and some process, some next steps. I'm curious if there were some clear outcomes that you want to see out of this definition as well.
Yes, so, you know, so we all can, you know, work on a definition of sustainability. And I think we have an idea, right? But, you know, there's compliance and there's sustainability. As the court or as the monitor has been able to see that, you know, there was 3 or 4 tasks left remaining, then they started talking about a sustainability period. And where I think the problem was that, you know, the tasks that were in compliance, or as I put it, a box checked, were not being monitored, you know. So, they were either, so every task to the right of the box has a requirement for compliance. Okay, there are 3 or 4 sentences to it. And that's the minimum that needs to be met in order for the monitoring team to recommend to the judge that they are in compliance. Those requirements, I believe, need to be bolstered in terms of, so if they're complied with and done with, are they just put away? Or, are they continuously looked at and revised? And that would be an outcome, for this body to recommend. I always say sustainability period should be forever. Compliance should be forever. We can give a calendar period for sustainability period, 12 months, whatever, 6 months, 2 years, whatever it may be. But I think that we need to bolster that with some robust evaluations during that period. Thank you.
I think I'm hearing like one outcome is that we have an evaluative process, some measurements or metrics that are established, right, to come out of this process. I'm also hearing that there's something around compliance that wants to be like have some clarity in here, because sustainability is really a really robust term, and compliance is something that, and that I think you said like maybe it's not a forever thing, but compliance can be something that's ongoing. So there could be some like clarity and definitions or like what is passive here. I'm not catching any other outcomes of this, but maybe that's something we can discuss down the line and try to figure out so that this definition has more of an endpoint to it and not just a beginning point.
Yes.
May
thank you.
I suggest a couple of things that may work or may not? It may be a starting point in terms of measurements, so we can assess if we're doing better or not based on the oversight. Number one, a reduction of civil monetary awards for abusive behavior. So annually, it has to be public. Oakland Police Department or the city of Oakland has to say, this year we gave out X amount of dollars in police misconduct award. And then, the following years, we want to have a reduction of that. So we're constantly measuring it. Secondly, it would be also an annual public assessment of our disciplinary actions. And that can be broken down. How many police misconduct where people were injured? How many police misconduct where people were killed? How many police misconduct where it broke down by ethnicity? See, law enforcement literally does not want to talk about those things because that's how you get at the root of the problem. In the United States right now, you cannot find out from any police agency how many Latinos were killed by Oakland, not Oakland, I didn't mean to say Oakland, by law enforcement in the United States. Most agencies they can volunteer that information, but it's not demanded of by the FBI statistics. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. Every year, the FBI brings out salient statistics measuring number of thefts, robberies, burglaries, rapes, drunk driving, all kind of analysis so they can figure out where crime is occurring and how to manage it. But if you talk about these real issues about people getting abused by law enforcement, no, we don't want to ask that question. Yeah. But Oakland can ask that question of Oakland because Oakland is a charter city. We don't have to go with the FBI. We could say, we want that. And if an officer doesn't want to work for Oakland Police Department because we have that higher scrutiny, so be it. We find somebody who does.
And those points you're bringing up, directly address the question of culture. So, and that's very important because that's one of the questions that was asked by the judge.
Yes. Any more discussion? I think that was really brilliant. Thank you so much, Mariana. Great work.
Thank you, Mariana.
That could be a very prominent part of our CMC statement that we push out.
I will incorporate these recommendations, these suggestions, and do folks mind if I send them to you through an email and then
Sure. And
Absolutely.
comments
Please.
and responses
yeah.
from us, yes,
Okay, very good. Thank you.
absolutely. And that's all part of this, these three questions that are being asked. And it sounds like we may be the only ones that are having a legitimate discussion about substantively what should go into answering those three questions with integrity. And that's important. So, Pastor Jackie.
Thank you. And so I'm offering you a cursory summary of some of the work that we did in the previous ad hoc. Some of it will be overlapping, Mariana, and perhaps we'll speak to some of the questions that came up. And so this is a cultural sustainability summary. So on the next slide, this is the statement that informed our work. In April 2023, the court observed that there was a cultural inability of OPD to police itself, hold itself and its officers accountable without fear or favor, a culture that lacks integrity, plays favorites, protects wrongdoers in ways that undercut the foundations of constitutional policing. And so that was the issue that we were dealing with previously. That led the NSA Ad Hoc Committee to say that in order for the Oakland Police Department to be able to come out from under the NSA, there needs to be a change in its culture. That was the genesis of this conversation. And it was a history of racial profiling. These are issues that we discussed as an ad hoc, the history of racial profiling and disparities that continue to exist today, a lack of empathy and professionalism, and actions that foster community mistrust. The goal that was set forth, and this was a goal, there were several goals that were set forth in the memo, some from the mayor, some also from the ad hoc. The overall goal said that OPD culture will live up to its own stated mission and value and vision. They have a strategic plan, they have a stated mission, they have a stated vision, they have stated core values. And one of the goals or the metrics would be that they begin to live up to what they have said that they want to be as a department. We added that there was demonstrated empathy, equitably applied across all people in a culturally competent manner, ensure the physical and mental wellness of officers, because there was a concern as to whether or not officers were presenting their best selves when they interfaced and interacted with the community, and to behave in a way that inspires trust through conduct, transparency, and accountability. So that is the foundation and the assessment of the culture. We decided that there were some actions that needed to be taken that could help foster and begin this change of culture. The first was an acknowledgement of the problematic past and problematic past practices. A second, which I think we discussed in the last meeting, is now going to take place under a separate committee. I'm not sure, someone can correct me, but we discussed the revision of the discipline policy and the discipline matrix as a second action. And the last one that we discussed was to promote ethical leadership and management for low to mid-level managers. As a breakout for each of these action items, acknowledgement of the past, the first step that we talked about in terms of implementation was to institute a department-wide training. That would be for existing officers. We also discussed integrating knowledge of the past into the current academies. Officers that are coming in as new officers need to have as a part of their established curriculum the complete history that has landed us in this place. You should not be able to get any other type of training without knowing the department that you are entering into, and that history is very important to that. In addition, non-sworn as well as sworn officers would need to be engaged in that training as well. We said second, that there would be a demonstrated knowledge of the historical past. That did not mean that there would be a test saying what happened with Celeste Watt. We weren't referencing specifics of incidents that happened, but something that allowed the department to be able to assess, again, that the officers understand the context that they are working in, and therefore the standards and the values that is expected of them because of that history. And then the last suggestion was that there was regular department-wide debriefings on current misconduct cases and ethical violations, so that the officers are aware that whatever is happening, you are not going to be able to continue that in this culture of secrecy. But that if there are issues of misconduct that are present in the department, it would be not the details, we recognize privacy, but that it would be known amongst the officers themselves. In terms of the second action item, we discussed the revision of the discipline policy and matrix that had to do with integrating discipline options as described in the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force report, number 32, which is public. I did not line all of that out because we all have access to that. But again, if this is taking place under a separate committee, then of course this could be something that we remove. But we talked about how that was necessary. And we also talked about the disparity in discipline based on the race of officers as something that needed to be raised and addressed. And that was a part of number 32 as well. And then the last breakout for the action item was in promoting ethical leadership and management for low to mid-level managers, meant that in order for officers to be considered for management positions, to be considered for promotion, again, they had to demonstrate an understanding of the environment that they're working in. And that, again, is connected to understanding the ethical violations that landed us in this place. It could be incorporated into the current screenings, into the promotional exams, into their trainings, field trainings as well, and ensure that those trainings and that those exams, that a significant portion is centered around expectation of ethical behavior. What is ethical behavior as it relates to the Oakland Police Department, and what does that look like at actual play? And make sure that the exams actually speak to that, because in our previous discussions and research, we discovered that many of them do not. And so this is where we landed. These were the three things that we wanted to make sure that were promoted before. Thank you, Michael, for sharing. I think that's the last slide. And these are also things that we can either expound upon, keep, remove, update, but that was it in a nutshell, that we had decided as an ad hoc that we would not be able to come out from under the NSA if there was not a drastic change in our culture. And so that's the connection I see with what you presented, Mariano. And so we said that a way to promote and start that culture change, which would have to be sustainable and measured and monitored, that these were some of the things that need to happen. Deacon Lyles pointed out, I believe last week, that some of those things are simply an action of the chief, that it could be requested, that some of these things be included. But in addition to that, we have recommendations of area experts who could help provide this training and implement these recommendations. We also have full explanations as to how these particular actions foster culture change. And so I offer that as a summary so you all can consider how you feel about that. It's there. Are we still there? Are we not there? Are there other things that need to be added and considered that would help to promote culture change? Things that need to be taken away. We had a full list of areas to be included in the training, but the main one had to do with the history of policing in Oakland.
Okay, so, and you had, thank you, Pastor Jackie, as usual. Yes, very thorough, very informative, very well thought through. Now, what happened when the statement that went in did not match all of what you have advised were the discussions? What happened?
Brother Mariano, there was some lobbying on behalf of this committee, and specifically Brother Mariano, that the language not be softened, and a request to submit what we actually wrote. I know they had taken maybe the first 5 paragraphs, which are just very descriptive and background, but a lot of the language was softened. It was quite flowery, but I could be getting that wrong. So please correct me, Brother Mariano. No,
that is correct. And when we requested, that our voice be represented in the submission, I was told that, the commissioners are the ones who decide. And, in the absence of consensus, only 2 commissioners voted to eliminate what you presented there, you know, our general feelings on that. So that was the process. And, you know,
You voted to eliminate what you had or to?
not to include.
Not to include, to commit on the ad hoc.
Yes.
You can't hear you, Pastor Jackie.
But wasn't the vote not to include it as a part of the statement that would come from the commission?
I'm sorry.
Mariana,
I'm sorry.
wasn't the vote to not include it as a part of the statement that would go to the commission?
No, there was not a vote in the ad hoc. What happened was that submission that was agreed on by two commissioners never was brought to the ad hoc. And the reason that it was given was that it had to be done on a weekend, and there wasn't enough time to call a special meeting on a Monday, you know,
Yes.
and that, so it was all very contrived. It didn't hold any water. We were excluded is essentially what took place because of the sentiment of our statements.
Well,
And I will circle back because that is why I stressed in the original meeting, knowing where everybody was on this issue, because we spent a lot of time, did a lot of work. As you well know, everybody on the call is doing triple duty post-pandemic. And to do that, be under the impression that our work was going to be taken seriously, and then to find out haphazardly that it was not, was very demoralizing. And personally, I will speak, and made me question whether or not I wanted to do this again.
well,
Right. So I'm grateful that there is consideration, but I have the same caution, particularly given the response that was received about the meet and confer of all of the parties, to make sure that we are not spinning our wheels and there is already a narrative that is being crafted that we're not going to be a part of. And I don't have any problem saying that to whoever needs to hear that, because for me, it means that we are not taking the admonition seriously.
You know, and it's a strategy. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, but it seems like a strategy. Well, look, the attention is on us, so let's get an ad hoc together and let them do 6, 7, 8 months worth of work. And then in the final analysis, we just, you know, put it on the shelf or ignore it. You know, just ignore it.
well,
And
that,
so that lines up with what Judge Orick said, that they work hard at not holding people accountable. They just don't want to do it, and it's bad policing because
And
it
the
destroys
intensity
trust in the
of our
community.
language, the sentiments that we expressed in its intensity was meant to prove to the judge that we understand the gravity of what is occurring. And we are
Yes.
deeply serious about acknowledging what has occurred, and equally as serious about charting a path forward that could be respected.
And if we
And
don't
so-
change, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So if we don't change our direction, if we don't do the cultural change, if we don't pursue sustainability, if we don't try to get qualified ways to measure things, the city just keeps pouring money away into the ocean. It's just throwing money away because these actions happen, it go to court, Oakland loses, and then they pay off.
yeah. And I think the impetus also on their part, as they continue to argue that we should be getting out of the NSA, because that was their tactic. If we had submitted city had submitted a statement in June, was, hey, we're ready. We made these policies. We enacted all these policies, but the judge wanted to see sustainability, a period of sustainability. And there really wasn't a very long period in which those policies and how they were enacted and followed were being done. So the judges continued to move this out for a reason. And I think it would be disingenuous on the city's part to, in this climate we're in now with the mayor, maybe under a recall, the IG is leaving, we have a new police chief. You know, there was an effort to change the charter language concerning the commission. We're not ready, but what we want to make sure of, and if we have to take it up with the judge, is that the community voice on how these questions should be answered must be heard. And so I'm not that leadership. I'm not that chair. I'm not that person who is going to hold back. I think we should just give it straight, no chaser. Okay. What we need to say is what we need to say. This is the community's viewpoint, Judge Orrick. Yes, Mariano.
Yes, you know, and then let's not forget the Inspector General is leaving. You know, along
Yeah.
with it, the office is going to have to get reconfigured, restructured, and that's the office that's going to be primarily responsible for the
And
NSA responsibility, the responsibility they have now.
Zipper's not ready.
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh, go ahead, Mario.
And I believe that the move of that charter amendment that died a couple of weeks ago, that move to move the OIG under the city auditor was all part of this. We're ready to go now because now
Yeah.
it's going to be under the city.
Yeah.
And now that it's not, you know, we
don't have to worry about the police commission. We've got the major leg of the three-legged stool over here under us now.
Correct.
Pastor Jackie.
And I just want to be clear, I am not opposed. As a community member, I am equally concerned about the amount of money that is being spent, though other things that could be funded that are needed in our city by the use of those resources. But what is abundantly clear is that if we cannot even come together to be able to have a conversation because, for lack of a better phrase, people are set tripping and power playing and ego tripping, who's going to call it, who should call it, who shouldn't call it, I don't care who call it, so that we can have the conversation and begin to do the work. It does not matter who calls it. We were ordered to have a meeting. If you're the person who's supposed to call it, honey, just call it. We don't have to be there. We can give our recommendations to the commission. The commission is the one who actually has a presence. But I say that to say, I don't want it to be the narrative to go out that somehow the ad hoc is anti coming out from under the NSA. That is not true. I just want to make sure that when we come out from under it, we can actually sustain ourselves and not end up under something worse than what we are in now for a longer period than what we have already extended. And so again, I say that to say it is equally important that there is a response that says that this type of behavior is part and parcel of a culture that is clearly not just present in OPD.
No.
And if that's the case, if that culture is also present in these other arms that are supposed to be doing the monitoring, then we absolutely 100% need a defined term of a sustainability period that would be longer than 12 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they had the right of way for 21 years, and we haven't moved 1 inch. We ought to at least try something different.
Thank you. I think we ought to be candid.
Yeah.
We obviously are capable of intellectual consideration. And so we just should give it to them straight, no chaser.
And William F. Orrick did just that.
Yeah.
We have to keep quoting him and not, no offense anyone, let's not say the judge. There are a lot of judges in Oakland. Is it the civil judge? Is it, we can't assume that everybody knows who we're talking about. We're talking about federal judge who's over the NSA, William Orrick, the son of a federal judge, said this.
Okay, so we need to start mapping. I think we have a lot of the ideas and sentiments that need to go into this addendum statement. We just need to lay it out and start crafting the sections. I want to hear from, I'm hoping Corelli is able to chime in. Nope. Okay.
Hi, I'm here. Sorry. No,
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with the discussion. I'm
Okay.
100% in agreement. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, thank you. And Chair Emeritus?
I am very, one, appreciative and impressed by community's presentations. There has certainly been a lot of movement to crush what the community demanded in its creation of the police commission in the first place. The straight no chaser is appropriate. The definitions and the very thorough presentation that Pastor Jackie has laid out. I think there are pieces of both presentations that we can lift up and make a part of the commission representation or commission presence or appearance. I know that they OCA rescinded the language that the previous chair submitted, but it was all
It was irrelevant and ridiculous.
it was attacking, it was irrelevant. So I am hoping that what we put forth will not be censored.
Well, again, that I think is the purpose of meeting and conferring, because there is no reason for us to spend the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks of our summer on some dynamic, thoughtful, thorough statement only to have OCA trash it because it doesn't agree with theirs. So I would like to have a meeting with them sooner than later to hear where they're coming from so that we can know that and respond accordingly.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. Thank you.
And you want the police association representative there also?
Oh, the plaintiff's councils.
Everybody. Okay, great.
Everybody.
Yeah, that's
what the judge said. He said he wants everybody on this screen.
The judge, William F. Orrick.
William F. Orrick. He said, I want everybody.
Okay, well, if that's the case, Chair, then your response to Bridget need be short, happy to facilitate a meeting. But I remember that Judge Orrick said clearly that all the people on the screen should be meeting together, whether we are technically a part of this lawsuit or, we weren't thought of because the lawsuit happened long before the commission was created. Yes. But we are or should be considered a policy partner, a thought partner, and what we say should matter. And unfortunately, we're not ready to get out. Nobody wants to get out. Well, maybe people want to get out more than me, but I've been working on this since I started. And we were so close, but we really weren't because our culture is not strong enough to withstand. And I love Pastor Jackie's comment about the culture of secrecy. That wording by itself needs to go into our statement as well, because it speaks volumes.
Okay, this is what I want then. Mariano, could you make sure that you send your statement to Micah and to me? Pastor Jackie, could you please share your slides with Micah and me? We have them. Okay, good. Jose, did you want to say something about it?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, maybe I missed this somewhere along the line, but assuming that OCA modifies our statement in some sort of way that we don't agree with, what avenue do we have for submitting for lack of a better term, a minority report to the judge?
That's a good question. Maybe we'll have our counsel research that. Oh, Katina, yes.
Yeah, the first thing I wanted to mention was if Pastor Jackie and Mr. Contreras, if you could send to Commission Counsel as well, what you're going to send to the chair and Micah, that would be wonderful.
I was going to send it to you from me. Oh. So it'll be kind of attorney-client. We'll deal with
Right.
Okay.
it.
Either way, I just want to make sure that we get it. I appreciated both of your presentations.
Absolutely.
And then as far as the ability to file something with the court, that's something we'd have to look into. Usually, the only people who actually have the ability to file with the court are the parties.
Well,
Unless
there's always amicus.
Yes, but that's usually in you know in
Mhm.
cases that are different than ours. They're usually in
That's
sort of
nice.
appeal cases or higher level Supreme Court cases. But we could request of the judge that we be allowed to file something separately. Usually it's not appropriate for a party to have separate communications with the court because you shouldn't be having ex parte communications with the judge. Communications with one party having a communication with the judge that the other party doesn't know about.
We'll let them
But
know.
but in our situation, we can let them know. But in our situation, we are not strictly speaking a party to the case. So if we do find ourselves in the situation in which we are not able to submit something that we want through the office of the city attorney, we could ask the judge if we could submit something separately. Of course, there are all
That's
kinds
something
of
we could take up with Warsaw. Is Warsaw our avenue to the judge on this or not?
He's not going to help us.
Well,
I mean, there's a
okay.
way to email the judge, but
Yeah, there are ways to contact the judge through the courtroom deputy and to have, communications that way without going directly to the judge. Of course, that all of this is obviously contingent on how the ad hoc and the commission feels like doing that will affect the relationship with everyone else in the city.
I don't see how it could get any worse than it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I wasn't going for humor. I was just going for
No, I could
just the
agree.
facts. I don't think we gain anything by not being creative. I agree that we cannot contact the judge independently. We really don't have any standing in my mind. But however, we do have a standing to the public. And we can state our case to the public, and we can state why we're stating our case to the public. And we can state our case to our representative. We can state our case to the mayor. And it could be a public letter to the mayor. And we have a right to do that. We have a right to get that published in some blogs or newspaper articles. In other words, truth crushed to earth will rise again. We should not be stifled because of the law that does not work in our favor. It should not be, and I really don't care about how they care about it. They already letting us know how they care about it.
Us anyway. But
yeah, and let me also, and I'll end with this. I also think, Mariano, you should give those two examples. You ought to, even if we don't use those examples, you ought to have that in sustainability so they'll know what we're talking about. Not having, we're sustainable. Why? We meet, every quarter, or we meet 12 times a year, but we don't do nothing. But we got to have something that's meeting. Say, these are the examples of what we're talking about, So,
well, Pastor Jackie has put in the chat a very good point. Yes, the plaintiff's counsels can do it. Jim Channon has reached out to me several times about how he is not getting a message through or not getting a meeting with the mayor and not having this meeting as well. And they were also directed to be a part of that meeting, the meet and confer that Judge Orrick ordered.
I forgot about Channon. You're right.
Oh, yeah. So we're all being, although I can't say we all are being frozen out, because this all started with a bunch of like telephone calls, you know, in that game of telephone where, you know, you're talking to one person and the next thing they're talking to someone else or talking to somewhere else. And I told Jim, I said, I don't want to meet like that. I don't want to gain an understanding like that. The judge said, we're all supposed to get together and we're all supposed to meet. We've reached out to the mayor. She's not answering. You've reached out to the mayor. She's not answering you. Reach out to Bridget Martin. This was the first time I got any response from her. Before I was just cricket. So we're making some headway, but I think we do have to hammer it home that this is what the judge ordered. This is what the judge said we were supposed to do. So you saying, well, I'm delighted to come to one of your meetings if you invite me. No, I'm not trying to get you onto one of our meetings. I'm trying to get the meeting that the judge required. So Jose, what did you want to say?
Yeah, a couple things. One, it just seems to me like OCA will just, they're going to trash whatever and or modify whatever you want to say. They're going to change and soften whatever it is that we put out. I think I would say that's a given. And therefore, I think we should look at whatever avenues we have to put forth our statement.
So that's what I'm saying. Let's put forth our statement. Let's write our statement in truth and integrity.
And I
What they
agree.
do with it.
I'm just saying that I think we should just assume that they're going to change whatever it is we put out, and they're going to change. I think we can also assume that they're going to change it to a level that we're not going to agree with, and therefore we should start now to see what avenues we have to put forth our own statement. We're not wait until later. Let's find out if it's Jim Shannon, if it's the Warshaw, if it's we can go through the court clerk, whomever. Let's look at each and every one of these avenues, and because I think ultimately we're going to have to pick and choose which one of those avenues we're going to use because we're not going to be happy with the changes they make.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair Emeritus.
Okay, so thank you very much, Jose. I do understand your point. Yeah, I remember that you had a meeting with Jim and that while there may not have been a conclusion about whether or not they would be available to include our statement if we were to be censored by OCA, we probably should get clarity on that. The other thing is, though, that if in our arguments that basically say we're not ready, we want to be ready, but we're not. And until we see this, this, and this, it's not likely that we're going to be ready. You know, that's ultimately what we want. We want out. But the work has not been done. It has been started, it's not been completed, and we don't know, you know, how many of our officers are still trying to toe the culture of secrecy. There are a lot of people retiring and all that, and it's kind of like, you know, 10% of the population's doing the 90% of the crimes. I believe that 10% of the cops are doing 90% of this culture of secrecy. It could be more, but I'm saying that I believe that there are a lot of people that see the writing on the wall and are recognizing and shifting and adjusting and getting ready to embrace. I know we're seeing it in our racial profiling ad hoc. We're seeing it in other ad hocs as well. But, you know, that has to permeate. So I'd say that, you know, Jose is on the right track. You know, if we can't get it through OCA and we can't get it through through Jim Shannon and John Burris, then we'll post it on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Oh, we'll for sure post it on our own website too.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying we got to get it out there, and we get it out there however we can. Obviously, professional decorum is important, but we want to ensure that the language that we share is not divisive, but it is authentic, it is transparent according to what we see in the community.
Yes.
So,
and also I would think hopefully remembering that public perception of the role of the commission is important. And ultimately, how this is handled, that is what is at stake. And we have seen the commission in some compromising, confusing, unfortunate positions having to react rather than be proactive, having to make statements of explanation. And if we kind of take these measures now, it certainly puts the commission into a proactive state and not having to respond to something you read in Oakland Side that you should have known before it was published in an article. And I mentioned Oakland Side because I'm sure they would gladly publish a statement on our behalf. We know some people that know some people, but I think it's important for the public to know that the commission is doing everything it can to make sure that their voice is not lost in this political machinations that are taking place for whatever reason.
All right, next steps. Oh, Jose, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just real quick, I don't often disagree with Reggie Lyles, but I have to disagree that we don't have any standing. We have standing, and we have standing by virtue of the order being included in the order of meet and confer. So we do have standing across the board, certainly from Judge William Moore. So I think we have that credibility and that kind of space to say what we need to say and have it go to him directly in whatever means we need, whatever means are necessary.
Well, because
I stand corrected, sir. Thank you.
think about how the community's voice was stifled, yet the community and certainly civilian oversight is what this whole NSA transition is supposed to embrace, civilian oversight, and to stifle our voice is not, I don't think, even what the judge, of course, maybe not even knowing what had happened with that statement that was significantly redacted, if you will. So I think we just have to go strong and be honest and, present our position with integrity and sound judgment and thinking. Jose? Mariano, I'm sorry.
Yes, so I'm the ultimate pessimist, but on this one, I think that, reading that response by Bridget Martin I couldn't help but think, did she press send before she read this 2 or 3 times? I'm serious, because that was just like a slap, and then, I got up again, and then she slapped me again. So I believe that if Chair, Peterson, if you would reach out to her, remind her of the Judge Oreck's recommendation, that we meet, the representatives of the police commission, meet and confer with the rest of the CMC parties, and see, let's wait and see what her answer is, because I believe that, that has to happen. That was an order. And
that
then
wasn't a minor request, it was an order.
And then once that meeting takes place, we can get, our representatives, the commissioners can get a sense of, where the recommendation is going, what the feeling is. And, but between now and then, we should continue with our presentations and our recommendations. But, and perhaps, finding out the other avenues, and get ready with the public, statements, going to the media and everything. But, I, for some reason, have some hope that, things will change, and, I couldn't tell you why, but, I'm just thinking that way. So yes, next plan and next steps.
Okay. I am thinking, with the material that we've received this evening and some other, I guess some other matters that need to be in the CMC, that we can at least create a draft, which we can start massaging and working with. and on.
So just
Sounds
to
like a
I
great
don't
next
want to,
step.
I don't want to wait until sometime in the latter part of June or the middle of July that they will call this meeting. I don't want us to not be working
Right.
towards what.
So we should be ready. We should be
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah,
So
And
just to
to
review,
your
August,
point, we've been requesting meetings with the mayor and this group since I believe January.
yeah.
crazy. August 28th is when the submissions are due, right? And then they get
Ours have
presented-
to be in a couple of weeks earlier.
well, no, September 4th, I believe, is when they
I
get
think-
submitted.
Katina, when is ours due though? Something
I
about,
believe ours is due into OCA by August 21st, so that OCA can submit the group to the court on August 28th. Is when they want to submit it, because the actual case management conference itself will occur on September 4th.
so that's sooner than we think. So I think we should have some sort of rough draft in consideration of the information and the presentations made this evening. And other parts, usually there's a SIPRA part and an IG part that also goes into perhaps framing why we are or aren't ready. And so we want to plug into them as well. So we've got 8 minutes to Mariana's hard stop. We do not have to use all 90 minutes of this. I think it's just, we're just here till 4:30 to 6.
Yes, Chair.
Anyway, I think we've made good progress.
I agree.
I can't hear you, Pastor Jackie.
I'm sorry. So how do you foresee us proceeding?
We're going to take the presentations and information we received this evening, and we're going to do a rough draft that we will start working on massaging as we go along with a goal. I would say if we give ourselves a goal of the end, how many more meetings? We're meeting every week. We have one, two, three, four. We have 3 more meetings this month, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 5 in July. So we have 8 more meetings before we hit August. In the meantime, we're also trying to get this meeting confirmed. So I would say let's start on the parallel track. We are still trying to get the meeting confirmed together. But on the other track, we are also beginning to draft what we want to say in a statement that responds to the judge's questions.
Okay,
Now-
can I make my offering in these last 3 minutes only because
Sure.
I have travel coming up, so I don't know what my meeting time is gonna be. So I'm assuming, as we said the last meeting, that the consensus of the ad hoc is that we are not ready. Do I have that correct?
Yeah.
And so that will be
You
what we
do.
are saying in a statement, that we are not ready, and we will be bulleting the reasons why we are not ready. And so in my estimation, and I can put it in email if it would be easier, one of the major reasons is we will have an empty OIG office coming up. We have a new police chief who needs to get acclimated to the city and all of the issues that he has inherited. I think that's a reason. The culture issue is a reason. The lack of a defined sustainability plan definition is a reason, even though hopefully what Brother Mariano has contributed in our expansion on that will be included as an offering. The lack of, I would include that is an ad hoc decision, but the inability to secure clear paths of communications within the parties that are vested is an issue. And if we can't do it with a court order, then if the judge is no longer there to do an order, how is this going to take place? And so those are just 5 things off the top of my head. I think that hopefully could be helpful headers
There's like a titanium mind.
to be
You know, I'm
expounded
taking
upon.
notes.
It's not that. It's just I do 1,000 things, so I have to get it out while it's happening.
Efficiency is
Corelli, I see your comment. Yes, yeah, that we need the entire city to get on board, absolutely. And that the police commission is in the process of strengthening itself and needing to clarify some processes. I would mention CIPRA.
Yes.
I remember doing that work with CIPRA and helping with their policy. And at that time, I don't know their status currently, but they were concerned because they were severely understaffed. And so I don't know if that's still the case, but the list could go on. But as a I don't know what the limit is, if there's a limit on what we can submit, but just concise reasons, those are mine.
Thank you, Pastor. Very, 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 very helpful. Jose, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest a third track, in addition to the work on the rough draft and the meet and confer, and that is an exploration of the different avenues of having the statement go to the judge and be sent out publicly.
Different dissemination channels.
Yeah, what kind of options do we have to get it to the judge and get it out publicly? Because I don't expect we're going to be happy with whatever OCA does with our statement.
Okay. Okay, well, I know I have to get back to OCA about this meeting. I will also be reaching out to the plaintiff's attorneys. There was going to be an effort just to sit down and meet with Jim and John Burris. But I don't like these little individual meetings when we're supposed to have a big meeting, and that's so right to talk to them. Yes, I will talk to them. But the bigger picture is for us all to be in that room with this meet and confer concept.
Yep.
Okay. And Walter isn't on this call, and I don't know, I didn't think the message back from the mayor's office was strong enough. We've gotten that message back, Regina, haven't we, before? Like, oh, I'll get my chief of staff to.
yeah. And I don't beg anybody to meet with me.
And nobody
When they
ever
were slow to
does that.
respond, I was done.
Yeah. So she's another one that might be disinterested in that kind of collaboration as well, which of course, as we've said, underscores the problem within the city, that even if we are ordered to have a meeting, we're not having a meeting. Don't you see the problem in that? OCA, we're ordered to and you're not having it. It's just exhibit A of the dysfunction in this city. All right. Any other comments about where we're going? Our next meeting with, let's see, Katina, Regina, Corelli, we'll all have to get together and look at what this draft is going to look like, whether or not we're capable of having anything ready by next Monday or not. We will let you all know.
Okay.
But yeah, we're going to be moving it. Jose, your hand is still up. Is that?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Pastor Jackie and Mariana for their great work.
Yes. Now, there was a training piece that was supposed to be part of this or not?
The training piece is already in the original document that you all have. So in the 6 documents that Micah sent, which included, there was one that says NSA draft, and then there's one that was the actual submission. The draft has all of the detail, area experts, subject matter, and measures. I don't know how much detail you want to go into, since there were some very specific questions that the judge asked, but that information is present, should you need to incorporate it, as well as sources.
Thank you. Well, if there's nothing more that we need to discuss this evening, I definitely will have something back, hopefully from Bridget as a result of me, I guess in the vernacular, clapping back. And we'll just keep it moving. And
You don't have to be nice with the clap back.
I don't have to be, should I just smack her? Yeah, well.
No, let's be
Oh,
graceful,
no, you know, come on.
but transparent.
For sure, for sure. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody. It's 6:01. Mariano is actually gone. And I think we can all get off of this call right now. And I thank you all and have a great meeting, rest of your evening, rather.
Goodbye.
Take care, everybody.